truth is diluted deliberately, like constant jackhammering on a peaceful summer day. It rattles your physicality down to the microbes. Arm and hammer, muscle mass matters. Mental complacency, atrophy of the mind. Apartmentality, fallacious false floor found in surface level thinking. Deep thoughts sinking, shallow thoughts float. Still no buoyancy in anguish. Wet your whistle before you spew gossip into the dry wit of feckless naysayers. Master of despise spits fire in your childlike eyes. Failure to draw appropriate conclusions in black and white. The duality never ends. Gray fusion begins while polarized fiends cling to their sinking ships. The jackhammer sputters and resides, and begins again. My name is Jack. Jack Hammer. Hammer Jack. Jack gets hammered. Hi, baby. I love you too. I like when you're all wet like that. It's sexy. Alright, I'm gonna go outside and do a show in the jackhammering noise of today. Of every day. The jackhammer noise is never gone. It's there every day. For years.
Now it's gonna be there, you said it.
Well, I'm just calling it how it is.
I love you.
I mean,
maybe you should start speaking the opposite.
call it how I want it to be. The
Yeah.
jackhammering ends
Ends today.
once and for all.
Yes. They will be finished with their work.
Yes, there'll be no need for any more
Try it out.
jackhammering.
Try it out. Seriously, you're just gonna start testing these things out, and when you see it work, you're like, whoa.
The jackhammering
Try
ends.
that some more. Gotta do it a different way.
A peaceful day is enjoyed. The silence is just deafening. It's like he's just kind of toying with these. How about if I do a little bit more here? A little more jackhammering? Here, how about a little bit more over here? This could use some jackhammering. I mean, while I get the thing out, I might as well just jackhammer whatever is there to jackhammer. Mindless jackhammering. I don't know why Jack gets all the hammering. What about John or Joe? John Hammer. Jack.
Arm and hammer.
Jack be nimble. Jack be hammered. Arm and hammer. Yeah. Jack be nimble. Jack be hammered. My name is Jack B. Hammer. Johnny B. Hammer. He used to carry a jackhammer in his gunny sack. I've been balling that shiny black steel jackhammer, been chipping them rocks for the great highway. I'm chipping them rocks from dawn till noon while I rather had my bottle in the other room. The doctors say I gotta stop balling that jack. If I live 5 years, I'm gonna break my back. Yes, I will. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you jackhammer no more. Take a nice breath of fresh air. Embrace the jackhammering. There's never a shortage of abrasive noises out here in the peaceful mountainside. I want to make like a soundproof room I can fucking escape into, where it's just soundproof and I can make all the sounds I want and nobody else will have to hear them and I won't have to hear them. It's all just distractions. They're just trying to distract from things that are important, like my flat earth streams. I'm trying to tell people, hey, look, you don't realize it, but you're a flat earther. I know it's embarrassing, but just hang on. Just work with me through this. I'll hold your hand. I'll hold your hand, and nobody will make fun of you because they'll be busy whispering about you behind your back. It's like, why is that flat earther holding that globe earther's hand? It's because we shouldn't be so divided. We're all here in the same boat, even though the upwards earthers would like to think that we're not. They told me. I'm trying to bring unity, and they cling to their division. It means so much to them. You must believe our wild conclusions we've come to, based on air bubbles and slinkies and what else do they got? I forget. Someone help me out here. What's up, Tony? Nice to see you. Somebody is out there. Is there anybody out there? I'm out there. Is anybody else out there? Maybe I can make louder noise. Maybe I can be louder than the jackhammer. What do I got that's loud? I mean, it just never stops. Oh yeah, I gotta manifest the end. It does stop. There is an end to the jackhammering, and it will subside eventually, soon. The thing is, it was jackhammering over on this property, and then it was jackhammering over there, and now it's jackhammering. It's like every neighbor of mine has decided to jackhammer consecutively. They take turns. The jackhammering never stops. Or is it all in my mind? Am I manifesting the jackhammering sound? Fucking, it's driving me batty. I can't think clearly. It's like, and they do it all day. I don't know how you can jackhammer for that long without fucking like I think your muscles would like go, seize up on you or something, or like, I mean, how do you do that? I've jackhammered before, and it's fucking grades on you. I mean, it's like it's not something you can do for extended periods of time. But these people, they'll do it all day, all fucking day. I've had to ask them to stop. It would be like fucking 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, we're gonna go to bed here pretty soon. Like, do you mind? And then they wrap it up and leave. I'm like, God, I gotta ask these people to stop. At least they stopped when I asked them to. It's like, oh yeah, it is getting kind of late. Yeah, and you're still jackhammering. What the fuck? And they'll start at like 8 in the morning. It's like a 12-hour jackhammering session. And that's just one of the noises. I mean, it'll be chainsawing, and hammering, jackhammering, tractoring. I know I complain an awful lot, don't I? I'm the main complainer. I'm the main complainer. I complain way too much. I should stop. I'm complaining about how much I complain. My main complaint is that I complain too much. My main complaint is that I can't stop complaining because there's so many things to complain about. what I intend to do is prove to anyone who thinks flat Earth is stupid that they too must be stupid. Just kidding. Nobody's stupid. Everybody's smart. We are a smart species, us humans. Why do we have to be humans? Can't we just be men and women? Human and hue women. Human and hue women. Who are you? Who are you, man? Just another hue of a man. Just a shade shy from a real guy. Who are you? A human. Oh, that's awful. Who are you? That's better. I play with an accompaniment of jackhammer. Well, I can prove that everybody thinks like flat earthers. I can prove it. I have devised a thought exercise that proves it. And I want everyone to realize this and spread the awareness. Because my awareness is spread thin. There's only so much spreading of awareness I can do. But here's how you can prove to a naysayer that they indeed are two flat earthers. They just don't realize it. I'll prove it. I'll prove to the world that the world is flat, and they also are flat earthers. They just don't know it yet. They'd rather point and laugh and place dunce caps on the likes of me and others who have just come to terms with the honest reality that we're existing within. Granted, you can believe in space and space balls all you want. If you turn on your television set, you'll be set. You'll be like, there it is. There's my beliefs all right there depicted right in front of me. How could it be a lie? How could it? Look at it, it's on TV. Well, the only problem with that is it's only on TV. You'll never really see it in real life. I look up in the sky, I see planets and stars and moons and yeah, but that's just up in the sky. We're down here on the ground. The ground is different in the sky. The ground is a solid terra firma. It bears no resemblance to the sky. We have no reason to think that what we see down here, what we experience down here, should resemble what we see up there. Anywhere you go on Earth, up there is going to be up there. And it's always going to resemble up there. It's always going to be the same up there. And it's always going to be the same down here. But those two places are not ever going to resemble each other, though. And we have no reason to believe that if we were to go drop through the Earth, that we'd pop out on the other side of the Earth. That's silly. Well, we would, I guess, if there was another side, but how do we know there's another side? How do we know? We don't know. Well, we know because of gravity. This idea that we came up with, this idea of gravity. Because we need to be able to have some kind of magical force that's existing that we can attribute to the idea of people being upside down or people not slipping and falling off of a ball. Because if we live on a ball, there's got to be some magical, we got to invoke some magic
So how are we going to do that? Well, we'll say mass attracts mass. That way, you're like a magnet to the earth. Mass magnets or mass magnets. It seems like more attention should be placed on magnets defying the downward vector. Or, if it's Ferris, the Ferris wheel. What is the Ferris wheel? The Ferris wheel. Why is it Ferris? Is it Ferris? Is it made from ferrous metal? Zox. Nice to see you. Zox. My beard looks all lopsided. I don't really have anything interesting to say, but I can prove to the world that they're all flat earthers. I'll do that. You guys already know how I'm going to do that, though. It's not very exciting for you guys. You've seen me do this before. You've heard it all before. But I'll still do it again. Because, well, I'll keep doing it until somebody says, stop, Forrest, stop. I can prove to you that you are a flat earther too. Maybe I should pursue the idea of the children's book. So I think that's where we need to direct our efforts, because it's true every day there are more flat earthers. That's true. There's more and more people becoming aware of this, and therefore that there's that many less globe believers every day. Um, Not to say that we're separate, that we should be on separate teams fighting each other. I think what it is just more like more people needed to just check themselves and realize that their beliefs don't necessarily resemble their experience and the way they think. The way they think doesn't resemble their beliefs. And here's how I seek to prove that. Hey, Jeremy Bird, what's up? Here's how you can prove to somebody that their belief in the globe doesn't resemble their way they think. Because if you were to imagine yourself owning a circular piece of property, and then let's say you become greedy and you want more and more property, just imagine yourself having a circular piece of property that you can draw another circle around and acquire that property. And then, so you keep drawing circles around the outside of your property line, and it just keeps expanding out. This is how I became a flat earther, is just by realizing this idea. It's like an outward expanding perimeter. All right, it's only going to grow. It'll never do anything but grow. It's outward expanding. Where you start in the middle, that middle place right there is always going to be there. So you keep expanding outward. The middle stays in the middle, and the perimeter expands evenly. It's expanding. So, with that thought in mind, you just have to imagine that distance, you know, it's a thing. The more you expand, the more you expand. That perimeter, it's impossible for that perimeter to ever start to shrink. You can't make it shrink. How are you going to draw a smaller perimeter on the outside of another one? You can't. You just can't do it. So an outward expanding perimeter can only grow. That's obvious. Anybody should agree with that. There's no way to shake a stick at that one. You could shake a stick at it and be like, "You're right, Dr. Bass." There is one way to shake a stick at it, but it's in agreement. I'm shaking a stick in agreement with you. Because, well, just imagine yourself like spiraling. Let's say, not spiraling in a bad way, but spiraling just in a literal way. Like you start to spiral. If I just started the spiral, you know, each time I go around the spiral, it's a bigger lap. You know, it's like the spiral. Each lap you make around the spiral, it keep you know, it gets bigger. It's like just imagine this ever increasing cinnamon roll. It just you just keep making a new wrap around it. The cinnamon roll is getting really fucking big. Just keep wrapping, keep making dough, keep wrapping that cinnamon roll. Wrap that fucker, wrap it good. That cinnamon roll is gonna get pretty big after a while, and you're just gonna keep wrapping more dough around that fucker. Pretty soon it's gonna be as big as the country you live in. You're gonna have a whole country of cinnamon roll. You just keep wrapping that fucker, wrapping that fucker, wrapping. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Pretty soon that cinnamon roll is encompassed the whole like fucking you know the whole continent you're on. You have this cinnamon roll, and it just keep wrapping that roll. Fucking, the whole world is in on this now. We're all wrapping this roll. We're gonna see how big of a cinnamon roll we can make. Keep wrapping that fucker. This is a big fucking cinnamon roll. It will only grow in size. It doesn't matter how many wraps around that cinnamon roll you wrap. You're never going to see that cinnamon roll start to shrink. It's stupid. Why would you even think of that? That's just dumb. Cinnamon roll keeps growing, 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 growing. It's not going to shrink. If you just keep spiraling outward, you'll just keep spiraling outward. And every time you lap around, it's going to be a bigger lap. Bigger lap. You're just, traversing over vast expanses of earth. You're never going to see that spiral start to shrink and spiral you back in somewhere else. Like, how in the fuck would that even happen? I mean, the only retort to that is like, well, if you live on a globe, it's going to have to start doing that. There's like the physicality of living on a three-dimensional shape. Like there's certain things that would have to take place that would sort of defy logic. Like I understand, if we were ants on a basketball or something, but like the thing is, an ant on a basketball, he's gonna be aware of the fact when he's on the bottom of the basketball, he's gotta hold on harder. He's gotta like cling to that thing. I guess that's how it works when you're an ant. I don't know. The thing is, we're not ants on a basketball, so it's not a really good. I mean, I get the idea of like, okay, well, just imagine it's just so big that you can't see the curve. It's just so big that everywhere you stand on it, it's flat. But like, you're gonna have to invoke some sort of magic, that keeps you from where everybody's on top of the ball all at once. Everybody's walking on top of this ball, and the ball is just there underneath them. And everybody's got their own frame of reference, and nobody's on the bottom, nobody's on the side, everybody's on the top. Doesn't matter where you are, you're on top. It's just a head fuck, man. I'm sorry. It's like a real psychological manipulation that's taking place. I do understand that it's there is some logic that led them to this conclusion, but there's a lot of like really grand conclusions that were just sort of they just sort of leapt to these conclusions without. I mean, that's the main problem I have with the globe, and you got to think back to when you were first told about the globe Earth. You're like, oh well, there's upside down people. I'll never get past that, like upside down people, upside down cities, upside down airplanes, upside down trains, upside down birthday parties, upside down balloons, upside down swimming pools, upside down toilets, upside down cars driving down the road, upside down people walking outside with their dogs, upside down butterflies, upside down everything. It's just all upside down. Like if you look out to sea, you're like, eventually that sea, if you look out at the cityscape far off in the distance, like, just imagine there's a building that's like perpendicular to how you're standing. It's just pointing that way. See, if the Earth was curving away from you evenly on all sides, you wouldn't see things stepping down the way they say bottom disappears first. It's like you wouldn't see things sort of step down like that. You would see things roll away. You would see a tilt. You wouldn't see things just sort of dropping. The dropping, that's what you would see if Earth was flat. If there was a curve and things were rolling away from you, and you could see visual evidence of that, it would look more like a tilt. You would see like a tilt. You wouldn't see just things dropping in perspective to you. Like, I mean, that's not. I think someone should just. I mean, has anybody done this where they? I'm surprised this hasn't been done yet. Where it's like a simulation, where someone could actually. Well, I think that's kind of what the whole thing is. Really, is they've got their model designed in such a way to where we can be experiencing a flat, non-rotating Earth while simultaneously have it being a globe that's in motion. It's kind of like you have to sort of say, well, if everything they say is true, then it's true. Oh yeah, they spent some time designing that one. I mean, there's some math. But the math simplified equals flat non-rotating Earth. So here's how you prove to somebody that they think like a flat earther. If you were awarded the concentric circle lottery, you won the concentric circle lottery. And here's how the rules of the game. You're given a circular piece of property. It's a complete circle. It's a perfect circle. And here's the rules of the game. You can step outside of your property and draw another circle around the outside of that circle you were given. And now that's your property. So you quickly get the idea that, oh, I can keep doing this. So it's like my property's going to keep growing. Now, here are the rules. You only own what's inside your circle. You can step outside that circle and draw another circle around that circle. You own that. You only own what's inside the circle that you drew. And you can keep drawing more circles around the outside of your other circles. So you pretty quickly you understand that this here lotteries is all about me acquiring more and more and more. I'm just going to continue increasing my property. And like, so you step outside your property, draw another circle. Wow, it's even that much bigger. And the bigger it gets, you know, the more you acquire per circle, because it's like you're covering vast stretches of Earth. So this concentric circle lottery, it's all about greed. The thing is, you're supposed to picture it like, okay, so each circle you make, the property gets bigger, and where you started, that first circle is always going to be in the middle, right? Each time you make a new circle and your property gets that much bigger, it's expanding out, expanding, expanding. So here's where you have to ask the globe earther, okay, but you probably shouldn't even pitch it to him like this is a globe earth, flat earth thought exercise. Just tell him you won the concentric circle lottery, and here's the rules. You only own what's in the circle, and you can keep drawing bigger circles around your circle. So, like, here's the question you ask them. If this exercise were to continue indefinitely, do you think you will eventually own the whole world? Yes or no? Yes or no? And I think most people, probably just about anybody, if they weren't thinking of it in the context of globe, flat earth, whatever, if they were just thinking about this thought exercise as like as if they won the lottery or something. It's like you just keep owning more and more. And if the whole world was in cooperation with this or whatever, and you were just, time wasn't an issue, or like, just you were allowed to do this indefinitely, like, do you think you would acquire the whole world eventually? Now, people are going to refer to their mind, in their mind to the whole world as being a ball, but they're not going to think of it in this way. They're going to think, well, yeah, I'm just going to keep expanding. Eventually, I'll own the whole world, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. And you only own what's inside the circle. the whole world eventually. I think that's the correct answer too. I think that's definitely what would happen. You would eventually acquire all the space available. Now, if there's an infinite amount of space, well, then you're going to be at it for a while. But like, the problem is, if you live on a globe, the answer is no. Because once you get to the median, the equator, that's the biggest circle you can make on a globe. So the most you'll ever own is half the world. Because after you pass the equator, the circles start getting smaller. Now, people come back at me and they're like, well, now you're just circling the property that you don't own. And that makes sense. However, the problem with that is you only own what's inside the circle. So technically, you'll never be circling something you don't own because you only own what's inside the circle. And there's only one circle, and that's the one that you just finished drawing. So technically, in this thought exercise, if you live on a globe, it'll be impossible for you to own the whole world because you only own what's inside the circle, and the circles start getting smaller past the equator. So you'd be losing property at that point. So if you're a smart little glober, you'll stop when you get to the equator. You'll own half the world, and that's the most you'll ever own in this thought experiment. But I don't think people are going to think it through to that level. I think they'll just think it through logically and be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. If you keep expanding out, you'll eventually own everything. That makes sense. But the idea, I need somebody who's like really good with words to like put this, to like wrap their mind around this idea, because I don't feel like it's a stupid idea. I feel like it actually kind of sheds some light on the dilemma of living on a globe. And it's light that's shed in a way that I don't think I've heard any other flat earther really go over. Like it's the conundrum of like living on a sphere where there's going to come a point in time where you're going to have to start drawing smaller circles around the outside of it. I'll never get past that. That's when I realized I was a flat earther. When I came to this conclusion, I'm like, wait a minute. If we started marking the latitude lines on the ground and like physically marked them, starting at the North Pole, they keep getting bigger, the latitude circles. But like at a certain point, you get to the equator and it's like a 24,000 mile circumference. Now you step outside of that. How are you going to draw a smaller circle around the outside of that? How's that going to work? I understand that on a globe, that's what you would have to do, and that's why I came to this conclusion where it's like that seems pretty ridiculous. How's that going to look at real life? How are you going to step outside of a circle and draw a smaller circle around the outside of it? How is that going to work? I don't think that's possible. Maybe there's some weird little mental snafu I'm running into there, but that's where the whole thing falls apart for me. And I think it should fall apart for most logical thinking people because it doesn't really make sense. You can't fit more area in a smaller circle. And like the only like sort of logical comeback that I heard Glober do when I talked about this before was when he said, well, you're only going to be circling. Now you're circling it's like negative space. Now you're just circling the area that hasn't been circled yet. And like that's why I came up with the property acquisition, because and like how you only own what's inside the circle, because that's where that's where I took it a step further with this, because if you only own what's in the circle, you're never going to be circling property that you don't own. So that sort of diffused that whole comeback. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but like to me, I'm making perfectly good sense. In the sense of, hey, Forever Love, nice to see you. Hey, Hercules, nice to see you guys. You've heard this all over a million times, haven't you? Sorry, I can't let it go. And the reason I can't let it go is because it's where the whole idea of globe Earth kind of takes a shit, in my opinion. It's like they just sort of paint you this picture. It's like, okay, and you sort of accept it, but it's like, but there's certain technicalities or whatever however you call it, where there's things we've accepted as being real that don't really check out. Like when it comes to like owning a piece of property, you need to know the perimeter of your property line. You need to know the perimeter of your property. That way you can deduce how much space you own, how much area that you're buying. This is a piece of property I'm buying. You need to be able to measure out the perimeter, and then from there you'll know how much property. You can deduce how much property is within that perimeter. Now, if you owned the entire northern hemisphere, that would make the equator your property line. So let's say you want to buy even more property now. Well, the only property that's available is the southern hemisphere. So you step outside of your property, south of the equator, and you draw a new property line around the outside of your other one. So now you have that much more property. It's funny though, because now you have a smaller property line. That was like a riddle that I came up with before. I was like, when is the one time you can have a shitload of something, buy a shitload more of that same thing, and have it measured to be less? It doesn't make sense, right? Is it just me? It's just me. It's one thing I won't miss about the summer is the flies and the jackhammering, the tractoring, chainsaw. Took 15 minutes for the town to burn down. 15 minutes, better clear the fuck out, and then a 15 minutes to put up a fence around it. Now the feds and the FBI, they're all along for the ride. Got to make sure that no one gets inside. Oh yeah, 15 minutes, boy, it ain't pretty. Getting down, right down to the nitty gritty. Got to make way for the 15-minute city. Be like suckling off a nipple of a phony titty. No sustenance at all. It's so suspect, sustainable development. It was a direct hit, that's the way it seems. Directed energy beams. You know, I think the flat Earth debate is kind of a distraction in general. It's like, meanwhile, sustainable development goals are being implemented all over the world while we're just bickering about some shit. And we should be like trying to dismantle that shit. Because that's like what we really should be worried about is the future of our society. I mean, I think it's pretty evident at this point that there is a very grand conspiracy that's being unleashed on the world in just about every corner of the world, the governments have been persuaded or just, manipulated into accepting this UN Sustainable Development Goals, where it's like the first goal is no poverty. Oh, it sounds so good. It sounds so great. But that also comes with no private property, no no freedom. There's a lot of things that come with UN Sustainable Development that are just disturbing. Like if you start reading some of the papers, like reading deep into it, like there's like so many just grandiose goals they have that are just disturbing. I mean, I'm under the impression that they know something that most people don't know. Like they're under the impression that we can like become symbiotic with AI and have our fucking reality that we experience, our senses be like tapped into by like where we can actually like be manipulated, where we can be in sync with the fucking Starlink and the Neuralink and all this whack shit. I don't get it. I don't know why people think that's a good idea. There's so many people working towards this goal too. There's like millions of people that have to be on the payroll for this. Because I mean, you think about the 15-minute cities, for instance, that they're being built. I mean, this shit's like really happening. So many contractors and so many construction workers and people that are all on the payroll of this UN Sustainable Development shit. And I mean, it goes deep. There's a lot of fucking planning that went into this. I mean, it's been planned for some time. It's creepy as fuck. It really is. And the 5G just sort of quietly got rolled out. It's all over the place now. I got all these fucking ugly cell phone towers everywhere you look. I don't think they're cell phone towers though. But I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm not even sure those towers are in use. Maybe they are. I don't know. I think they're just sitting there waiting for a purpose that hasn't been implemented yet. Because I mean, it's like, oh, it's just there for internet. Yeah, well, we already had internet, so it seems kind of hard to prove that that's what they're being used for, since we already had internet. So it's not like, and it didn't change. It didn't get any better, or nothing's different about it. I mean, do people really think their internet's that much faster with all those 5G towers that got put up? It's kind of a depressing subject to get into, really, because it's sort of like, I mean, to like fight against it. I mean, I feel like all the people that are working for it, maybe they're brainwashed into thinking it's a good idea, or they're just thinking that since I'm part of this, that I won't be subject to the fucking the dystopian reality of it all. But like, or it's like they think of it as being like progress or something. I don't know how you can think of this as being good progress. Like, I think we still outnumber the people that are on board with that agenda. Like, as far as just the average person wouldn't really necessarily want things to take shape in that way. It's not really about sustainability so much as it is about control. And they're looking at things incorrectly. They're looking at the earth as though it's like a ball of dirt that's floating around the sun, and we just got lucky enough to like end up in this situation where we have all this limited amount of resources, and it's the greenhouse effect and all this crap. It's like they're not even looking at earth the way it is. They're mistaken. Well, I don't think they're even mistaken. That's why I think at the core of it, the people that are at the very top of all that, they know what the earth is. They know that this shit's bullshit. They're just manipulating people's like goodwill, because people generally have like a goodwill. People want to do the right thing, so they're jumping on board that idea, and they're fucking manipulating people with that notion of like, oh, this is the right thing to do for the environment, for the future. And so people think, oh, well, then we better get on board with this. People don't think below the surface. They're just like, oh, well, this is a surface level narrative. It must be true. There must not be anything else going on here. It must be true because they said it's true. Uh-huh. Hard to hide from the wind. I think that, like, if flat Earth were to really become, like, understood by everybody, shit like this sustainable development crap, it would kind of go out the window because people would realize like we have fucking unlimited resources. They replenish themselves. We've been given this perfect realm to exist within. There's no shortage of materials or fucking resources. Sure, I mean they've been mismanaged, but that's not our fault. It's not our problem, really. It is kind of our problem, but it wasn't us that did that. I don't know why we need to be punished because of it. They're like, well, we really fucked everything up, so we're gonna redo things, and now you guys are gonna be fucking screwed because the way we're redoing things is gonna, basically put you in a fucking slave system. You'll have a social credit score and fucking digital ID. You'll have to behave a certain way and get your updated vaccines in order to get your universal basic income. Nobody can save money anymore. That's not going to be a thing because your money will expire if you don't spend it in time. And you can only spend it on certain things that we say that you can spend it on. I mean, how in the fuck are people going to accept that as being okay? Well, because we're trying to save the earth. We live on this one little dirt ball flying around the sun, and it's going to run out of resources if we don't manage them correctly. We gotta trust the science. It's all about science and compliance. It's all about the science and compliance. You better comply with the PSYOP. It's all about the science and the PSYOP. Compliance and the face of compliance with science. You better comply with the science. I gotta put new strings on this thing. This thing is not fit for playing. Well, this job I got running out of money and I need more pay. Gotta change my strings. This shit sucks. Tell you what, I'm gonna change my strings and maybe I'll come back on. I got 4 people in here. I don't want to just turn my show off if you guys are here already. Are you glad on Gladder Day? Gladder Day is a day for being glad. I don't want to have another Saturday. No more Saturdays. There's no reason to be sad. It's the weekend. We're going to have Gladder Day from now on. Are you glad? Be glad it's Gladder Day. Okay, I'm going to change my strings and I'll be back on in like maybe 20 minutes. So I could just leave you here staring at the sun or the sky and the infinity of space. No, sorry, I'm just kind of I'm all over the place. I'll come back later though. Love you guys.